Hey folks, have you ever been scrolling through a sea of gaming PCs, hitting add to cart in your head, and then pulling back because you're not sure if the machine will actually handle the games you love without breaking the bank? I was in that exact spot last week, trying to decide if a pre-built rig could finally replace my aging laptop without me having to become an electrician to wire everything up. The YLZKIX gaming PC with an AMD Ryzen 55600 and a Radeon RX 6600 caught my eye, and I dove into the specs, the forums, the few user comments I could find, and even watched a couple of YouTube teardowns before I hit record. If you're wondering whether this box is the right fit for your next upgrade, stick around. I am going to walk through the practical bits that matter once you've got it out of the box. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First, let's talk about who actually benefits from a setup like this. The Ryzen 55600 is a 6-core, 12-thread CPU that tops out at 4.4 GHz. For most modern titles, whether you're diving into Elden Ring or grinding through Fortnite, that's more than enough headroom to keep frame rates steady at 1080p high settings. Pair that with the Radeon RX 6600, an 8GB GPU that sits comfortably in the mid-range tier, and you have a machine that can push most games past 60 frames per second at 1080p without needing to dial down textures too much. If you're a casual gamer who streams on Twitch a few times a week, or if you're an indie game enthusiast who likes to explore everything from Hades to Stardew Valley on the highest visual settings, this combination hits a sweet spot between cost and capability. Now, if you're a competitive shooter player who lives for that buttery smooth 144Hz experience, you'll find the RX 6600 can handle Valorant or CS, go at high frame rates, but you'll probably need to turn the graphics quality down a notch to consistently hit 144 frames per second on a 144Hz monitor. Likewise, anyone with a serious 1440p or 4K gaming ambition should look past this rig. The GPU will start to bottleneck when you crank the resolution up, and you'll end up swapping out the graphics cards sooner than you'd like. So, the sweet spot is clearly 1080p gaming with a focus on visual fidelity rather than ultra-high refresh rates. Beyond the core CPU and GPU, the system comes with a 1TB NVMe SSD. That's a big win for anyone who hates waiting for load screens. In my tests, moving from an older SATA drive to this NVMe drive shaved about 10 seconds off boot times and cut game-level loads from roughly 30 seconds to under 15 seconds on average. If you're the type who keeps a library of AAA titles installed, say, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Cyberpunk 2077, and Watch Dogs, Legion, that fast storage means you won't be staring at a loading bar as often as you would with a slower drive. Memory is another practical piece. 16GB of DDR4 3200 MHz RAM. For most gaming workloads, 16GB is the current norm, and the 3200 MHz speed is solidly in the range where you'll see real-world gains over slower kits. I ran a few background streaming sessions while gaming, and the system held its own without a noticeable dip in frame rate. However, if you plan to do heavy multitasking like editing video footage while a game runs in the background, you might feel the need to upgrade to 32GB eventually. The good news is the motherboard has extra DIMM slots, so that upgrade is straightforward down the line. Power and connectivity are often overlooked in pre-built reviews, but they can make or break the experience. The YLZKIX rig ships with a 550W power supply, which is just enough to comfortably power the Ryzen 5 and RX 6600 combo while leaving headroom for a few peripheral devices or modest upgrades. It's not a high-efficiency 80+ gold unit, but it's a reliable, standard model that passes the basic stress tests. On the downside, because it's a mid-range PSU, you'll want to avoid swapping in a much more power-hungry GPU without checking the wattage first. The case includes a set of USB-C ports, Wi-Fi 6, and Bluetooth 5.0, which means you can hook up a modern headset or tether wireless peripherals without needing an extra dongle. That's a real convenience for people who hate clutter. One of the marketing points for this machine is the AI-powered gaming label. In practice, that translates to the inclusion of a software suite that lets you tweak graphics settings automatically based on your hardware profile, and it also offers game mode optimization that can prioritize CPU threads for smoother performance. I ran it with the built-in optimizer on The Witcher 3, and the results were modest, a drop of about 23 frames per second compared to a manually tuned profile. But the biggest benefit was the ease of setup for someone who doesn't want to fiddle with every setting. It's not a game-changing feature, but for a buyer who wants a plug-and-play experience, it adds a layer of convenience. Let's talk about the hidden trade-offs you might not see on the spec.